Et le STTP négocient depuis plus d'un an. Les progrès réalisés sont limités et des divergences importantes demeurent entre
significant differences remain between the
et
parties.
ce matin, cela fait près
And this
d'un mois
morning,
que le
it's been
conflit
nearly a
travail
month
entre
since the
Post
labor
Canada
dispute between
et le
Canada
syndicat
Post
perdure.
and CUPW
Un mois
started.
pendant lequel les Canadiens d'un océan
A
à
month
l'autre,
during which
nos
Canadians
PME,
from coast to coast
ainsi
to
que
coast,
celles et ceux
our
vivant
small
dans les
businesses, as
régions
well as
éloignées,
those living in
dans les
remote
dans les communautés
regions, in the
autochtones,
regions
et entre autres,
and in
ont
indigenous
grandement
communities,
souffert.
have suffered greatly.
After months of conciliation and mediation supported by the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, work stoppages, and the subsequent appointment of a special mediator to assist with the negotiation of their new collective agreements, Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers remain unable to reach an agreement. Canadians are rightly fed up. Les Canadiens en ont.
Canadians are rightfully fed up. As Minister of Labour, I have a responsibility to protect Canadians in the public's interest by maintaining industrial peace while respecting the rights of the parties involved in this dispute. That's why I'm here to announce that I'm here today to announce that I'm bringing forward a solution to promote conditions conducive to resolving this labor dispute and thus protect the interests of all Canadians.
Not only have the parties been able to show any progress towards an agreement, the federal mediator has now informed me that the negotiations between both parties are now, in fact, going in the wrong direction. So I'm here today to announce that I am applying a solution to promote conditions favorable to the settlement of this labor dispute and protect the interests of all Canadians. Today I've used my powers under the Canada Labour Code. It is my view and the view of the FMCS that the parties are at an impasse. I have asked the Canada Industrial Relations Board, if they also determine that there is an impasse, to order Canada Post and all employees represented by CUPW to resume and continue their operations and duties, and to extend the terms of the existing collective agreements until May 22nd, 2025. During this time, an Industrial Inquiry Commission will be established. Mr. William Kaplan will fill the role of Commissioner. He is an experienced negotiator and has a clear understanding of Canada Post and its union. The Commissioner will be tasked with examining the structural issues preventing the resolution of the current labor dispute. The IIC will be required to submit a report to me and the parties outlining their findings and recommendations by May 15th, 2025. The review could provide the basis of a path forward on how to amend the collective agreements and clarify the structures, rights, and responsibilities of the parties in collective bargaining. The inquiry will have a broad scope, as it will examine the entire structure of Canada Post from both a customer and business model standpoint, considering the challenging business environment now facing Canada Post. Donc aujourd'hui, j'ai utilisé mes pouvoirs en vertu.
Today I use my powers under the Canada Labour Code to intervene. I agree with the FMCS that the parties are at an impasse. I have asked the Canada Industrial Relations Board if it agrees, and if so, to order Canada Post and the CUPW employees to resume and continue their work and to extend the terms of the existing collective agreements until May 22nd, 2025. During this time, a commission of inquiry into labor relations will be implemented. Will be established, rather. William Kaplan will serve as a commissioner. He has an extensive negotiating experience and a thorough understanding of Canada Post. The commissioner will be responsible for examining the issues preventing the resolution of the current labor dispute. The IIC will submit a report to the parties and to me containing its findings and recommendations by May 15, 2025. This review could chart a course for amending collective agreements and suggest any necessary modifications, and could also clarify the party structures, rights, and responsibilities in collective bargaining. This inquiry will be brought in scope, examining the entire structure of Canada Post from both customer and industry perspectives, taking into account the challenging business environment facing Canada Post. The work stoppage at Canada Post has significant consequences for Canadians, Canadian businesses, and charitable organizations across the country.
To maintain industrial peace, and Canadians must be assured that their government will take all necessary actions to protect them, especially when the safety and prosperity of workers and communities are at risk. I am making this decision to protect the interests of all Canadians. It is not a decision I take lightly, but in this situation, it is the right one. First, the business impacts. During the strike, Canada Post cannot process an estimated 1 million parcels per day. This disruption is particularly detrimental to small and medium-sized businesses, and the economic harm they suffer increases with each passing day. In fact, has accumulated significantly to this date. Second, on charities, direct mail fundraising is a main way of securing critical annual donations, and all this fundraising has been jeopardized during this dispute. The holiday season is the most important fundraising period, with many charities receiving a significant portion of their annual revenue during the final weeks of the year, particularly in December. And let me pause and just say that I invite all Canadians to consider any way they can to support the charities of their choice, and we obviously hope they avail themselves of all possibilities to do so, whether postal or other means. Third, rural and remote parts of Canada. These areas already have limited access to alternative delivery services and are especially vulnerable to the disruptions caused by a postal strike. In some of Canada's most remote regions, Canada Post is the sole delivery provider. Fourth, for Indigenous communities, the strike is having a severe impact, particularly those in northern and remote regions. Indigenous communities in the north that already have significant challenges related to access and infrastructure are disproportionately affected by the disruption in postal services. These communities rely heavily on Canada Post for essential deliveries, including medicine, goods, and resources that are vital for their well-being. The strike worsens existing challenges for Indigenous peoples, making it even harder for them to access goods and services they rely on. It is the only reliable delivery service available for many communities, and the strike further isolates them from essential resources. The government's intervention is critical to make sure that Indigenous peoples are not left behind and they continue to receive the support they need during this difficult period. And fifth, government services. The labour disruption has had a significant impact here as well. Due to the Canada Revenue Agency's heightened document security requirements, there is no possibility of switching to alternative courier services for most shipments. And as a result, more than 1.65 million pieces of personalized correspondence are currently in secure storage, awaiting delivery. There are also approximately 190,000 passports at Passport Canada facilities waiting to be shipped.
Several essential documents are also being held hostage during this strike. In Quebec, we learned this morning, and as elsewhere in the country, these include health insurance cards, driver's licenses, and license plates.
Refugees and Citizenship Canada reports significant backlogs in delivering other critical services, including 50,000 permanent resident cards that are yet to be mailed, disrupting the processing of temporary residence applications. The government is committed to collective bargaining. It's not easy, but we've seen time and time again that it produces the strongest, most enduring agreements to the benefit of workers and employers alike. I
want to reaffirm that negotiated agreements are, still, and always will be the best way forward. But both parties must be present at the negotiating table and be prepared to negotiate in good faith. It is with this in mind that I intervene today. I want to provide the parties with a solid basis for resuming negotiations and reaching a common ground as soon as possible, once the Commissioner will have published his report in May.
Between the parties in a dispute are the best way forward, but both parties need to be at the table and be prepared to negotiate. It's with this in mind that I am intervening today to make sure both parties have a solid foundation to resume negotiations and reach a mutual agreement as quickly as possible and once the Commissioner publishes his report in May of next year. Je vous remercie.